Good afternoon, Sierra McCormick.
Hello.
Welcome on VH Berries.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am extremely grateful because you navigate the seas of storytelling like a seasoned sailor and the
Thank you.
highs of the Mount San Jacinto like a marathon with depth and dynamism. How are you doing today?
I'm good. That's quite the compliment. So I'm even better than I was before. So thank you.
And during this adventure, climbing the Mount San Jacinto, you are not taking the Palm Spring Aerial Tramway, but instead walking on the Deer Springs Trail, a much more difficult road, but worth the ride.
True that. Thank you.
I would love to discuss about one of your very recent projects that is a testament to your versatility and also to this need to do something.
Oh, we need to do something? The movie? That's a crazy movie. I wasn't expecting you to drop that one on me, but yeah, I'd love to talk about it. That's honestly one of my artistically favorite projects that I've done as an adult, but oddly enough, just because of the timing and the nature of the shoot, it was like one of the most grueling kind of rough shoots I've ever been on. And that's not because of any of the cast or the crew. Everyone on that movie was so wonderful, and I still talk to a lot of them, but it was more just that the movie itself is very bleak, I would say. It's a very bleak movie. It's a very nihilistic movie. And we shot that in 2020, like September 2020. So pre-vaccine, very much in the thick of COVID. And so the way that we shot that was the production company had a sound stage across the street from like a business hotel. And so every single day, because of COVID, we couldn't go anywhere. We had to stay in a bubble. We had to be testing every single day, multiple times a day. And so we'd go to the sound stage where they'd built this little bathroom set to look like the bathroom in the house. And we'd go over there, we'd shoot all day, do all this bleak stuff where, you know, I'm trapped in a bathroom, my family, they're all fighting, we're all in danger. Yeah. And so I would go and do that all day, and then I would be done. And I would just have to come back and stare at 4 gray walls in this hotel room and just sit there and watch TV and order takeout. So, and, you know, think about the existential dread of COVID prior to the vaccine. So it was definitely kind of a bleak experience, but I felt very artistically satisfied, and I felt like I had the most incredible director, producers, cast around me, so there was no worries there. I felt very comfortable on set. It was just the subject matter combined with the real world events made the shoot very, very bleak at times.
Absolutely, Sierra McCormick. This shoot was very bleak at times,
Yes.
going from a specific 4 walls place to another one called an hotel.
Exactly.
And also going from being an actress to also a co-executive producer.
Yeah, that was my first foray, and not my first foray technically, but my first foray into a feature movie, having that fun credit.
Into this feature film called We Need to Do Something. You are bringing an effervescent charm to this daughter called Melissa, a name that means honeybee. Can you tell us a little bit more about both Melissa and this very intense storyline?
Yeah, of course. I didn't know it meant honeybee. That's news to me. So thank you for that fun piece of trivia. I love that. Yeah, what I was really drawn to the character of Melissa because I could relate, you know, because as a teenager, you know, she's going through teenage emotions where everything feels like the end of the world, but against the backdrop of perhaps the actual end of the world. So I thought that emotional through line was very interesting, and her relationship with what is her girlfriend's name in the movie? Amy. Her relationship with Amy was very interesting to me because it's this sort of very, you know, unique to being a teenager kind of crush love bond where everything feels so huge and so dramatic. And I felt that coupled with the subject matter of the movie, like in a very interesting way. And, you know, like everyone can kind of relate to the horror of maybe being trapped in an emergency in a bathroom with your whole family. So I was very interested to explore that. Yeah, and just kind of dive into Melissa and her relationship with her parents, and how that also sort of informs all of her choices in her relationship with Amy. Because the actors that played my parents, Vanessa and Pat, they were incredible, and I loved doing all my scenes with them, and they had so much to teach me, and I learned so much from observing them and doing scenes with them that I think the relationship between Melissa and her parents had a lot of richness and a lot of sort of context that maybe isn't explicitly stated, but was sort of acted through Pat and Vanessa and me. Like, for example, you know, Melissa and her dad, Pat Healy, his character, have a very contentious relationship, but they're also like the most similar to each other in a way. And so I found that, you know, when you're very similar to your parent, especially during those teenage years where everything, you know, is very, very difficult, honestly, you end up having maybe more contention with the parent that you are more like in personality, because it's two people that are, you know, alike in a certain way that can make them clash or butt heads a lot. And I loved exploring that sort of interesting detail, or that sort of interesting relationship with Pat's character and Melissa specifically. And then the interesting sort of like female bond that daughters have with their mothers, especially if the father is abusive, you know, like Pat's character is, and how that Vanessa's character and I, like mom and daughter, kind of have this unspoken united front kind of to protect each other and protect our younger brother from dad and from his sort of outbursts and abuse and stuff. And so, I don't know, exploring the parental relationships with Melissa and each of her parents was something that I really enjoyed doing, because I had fantastic actors playing my parents. So it made it really, really a treat to sort of explore some of those interpersonal parent-daughter aspects of the character. So that was really fun.
It was a treat to experience those familial and parental relationships between Robert, Diane, Bobby, and Melissa. And on top of that, they have to face the enhanced Fujita scale, and more and more precisely the EF5 tornado level.
Or that's what Bobby thinks, at least. I mean, it's up to your interpretation as to what's actually outside the door. That's I think something fun about the movie is that each audience member, each person that watches it can have a different sort of idea about what the family is sort of sheltering in place from, you know, because it's never explicitly stated or shown. And I thought that was something so interesting about the script, is that, you know, Bobby thinks it's an EF5. Melissa has an inkling that maybe something related to the witchcraft that her and her girlfriend were doing has something to do with it, but no one ever truly knows. And so, you know how they say, sometimes your imagination can be worse than what would be shown to you on screen. I think that movie We Need to Do Something is a really good example of that, because I was imagining something different and, you know, scary to me personally when I was reading it. And when I talked to other people that have seen it or had read the script or people that worked on it, they all had a different interpretation or a different sort of idea of what, you know, and it kind of is indicative of what scares, you know, you personally and what your personal fears are as to like what you project onto the movie and what could be outside. I think it's a really fun device in horror to kind of obscure so much that it kind of relies on your personal fears and whatever your personal imagination comes up with to scare you, which is really fun.
Actually, Sarah McCormick, I do not agree with this point because I remember Melissa receiving a text saying emergency alert text, tornado warning in this area. Take shelter now. Check local media. NWS.
No, you're correct. You're totally right. I mean, I forgot that that's what it said, but you're totally right. I think what the filmmakers thought or whatever is that that's what people assume it is, but there's something greater. I feel like, without giving too many spoilers for the movie, I think there's a particular moment with a puppy dog and a scary voice that maybe kind of flips that on its head, the idea that it's just a storm. So I think it's kind of up to each person's interpretation of the movie and what's out there. And I think it's scarier that way because, tornadoes, nothing to scoff at. That's pretty scary. But, if a regular old storm isn't what scares you, there's kind of the opportunity to read more into it if you please, or you can take it very literally and think that there's a storm. That's kind of the fun thing about that movie to me, is that it's very much up to audience interpretation. You can read into it very literally and think that there is some sort of storm or whatever, or you can read into it in this very supernatural sort of witchcraft way, or you can read into it in this very like post-apocalyptic, human suffering, people doing horrible things to each other kind of way. I don't know. The possibilities are endless. That's why it's such a cool movie. When I read it to the script, I was like, oh man, everyone's going to have a different opinion. It's going to be very like hot or cold with people. And I love that about it.
The possibilities are endless,
yes.
Sarah McCormick, especially when Bobby is in the room. Can you tell us a little bit more about this experience playing alongside the giant young Bobby as opposed to the tiny old Bobby?
He's a little old man. That's how I razz him in the movie, which is so funny because John James, who plays Bobby, he kind of was a little old man in the best, like, most endearing way. He was a very, like, he had his little glasses and he was doing his little schoolwork, and he honestly reminded me that I'm getting older because he was talking about a bunch of like video game related stuff in this very like articulate, like little man way, which was very funny to me, but I must have sounded like an old fuddy-duddy to him because I had no idea what he was talking about when he was talking about certain video games and like Twitch streams. I was just like, wow, I truly have no clue what you're saying. Like, I truly don't know any of what you're talking about. So I guess I'm getting older. Honestly, it kind of aided in the big sister little brother dynamic because he was giving me a tough time for being a big old annoying sister, and then I was giving him a tough time for being a little old man. So it actually kind of worked out in real life, and it was super fun because I have a younger sister. I'm the oldest sister, and so I don't think I had gotten to explore that real life sort of experience of being an older sister on screen. I don't think I had played an older sister in that with that kind of dynamic before, and so it was really fun to sort of put my lived experience to use as a big sister who's annoyed by the little siblings sometimes, but then also like deeply protective of them. So I hadn't really gotten to really capitalize on that a whole lot in my career. And so getting to do that and getting to kind of portray that relationship that, especially when you're at that age, because I think John James was about maybe 10 when we filmed that. So, and I'm supposed to be playing like 16. So that's almost my sister and I's sort of age gap difference. And And so getting to sort of navigate the highs and lows of that relationship, you know, the deeply annoying aspects of having a younger sibling, but then also the fact that you would die for them. You would do literally anything for them. And I hadn't really gotten to put those real world experiences to use on screen a whole lot. So that was definitely a treat to sort of, you know, navigate that older sibling, younger sibling relationship, and it made it that much more emotionally devastating, and it wasn't very difficult to put myself in the place of, you know, wanting to protect your younger sibling and being devastated if anything happened to them. It was a very easy place for me to go to, not emotionally. It was like very hard, obviously, but it came very easily because I had that relationship in my life. And I hadn't really gotten to explore that on screen. And so it was definitely a treat to be able to that time.
Absolutely, Sierra McCormick. And additionally, and to also give some context, this character named Bobby is dreaming of 1,000 eggs with cheese instead of goldfish crackers, a classical fish-shaped cracker with a small imprint of an eyes and a smile.
I was like, don't forget the smile. The goldfish crackers are the snack that smiles back.
He even asserts snakes with extra cheese, cheese with extra snakes.
That's when Bobby's losing it a little bit. Which was so funny because when we were filming that, and he was talking about the omelet and all the eggs, he wants 1,000 eggs with cheese. And Melissa is supposed to be like, ew, only like old people eat eggs or whatever. And then he was like, no. And so we ended up having an argument about it. But at the time, we were only able to get like these pre-made frozen meals because of, you know, the COVID scare. They didn't want we couldn't go out to lunch, or they couldn't really cater out or anything. So they had all these, you know, kind of frozen healthy meals for us to eat at lunch every day. And so that's what we were eating. And then that or takeout or like delivery from wherever for dinner. And it got to the point where I don't ever get eggs delivery because I feel like eggs are kind of gross when they're delivered on like a delivery service for food. And then on top of that, we were having these like frozen meals so that when John James was talking about the 1,000 eggs with cheese, I was actually like, oh man, I could go for some eggs right now. I was actually like, I was having a major craving for eggs with cheese. So when he was saying that and I had to be like, ew, I was really acting because in real life, I really, really wanted 1,000 eggs with cheese, honestly, and some goldfish crackers. I don't discriminate.
You were craving for 1,000 eggs.
Yes.
As the complete opposite of your character,
yes.
Melissa. And to come back to the craft of we need to do something, I am really enjoying the inventive cuts portraying Robert, Diane, Bobby and yourself trying to break out the door made of solid oak, tempered glass blocks, 6 feet thick rock walls, and also the tile.
Yeah, it is crazy because they, the whole family's dilemma is that they can't break out of this thick, stone, oak, glass, like walls in this bathroom. And oddly enough, it looks very convincing on screen, but that was all completely built as a set. That was not like a real bathroom or anything like that. So they built that. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like they built that as a set. And so technically we could have broken out of it because it was all kind of like fake stuff. And so we technically could have broken out of the soundstage bathroom because it was very much like plasticky and not as fortified as Robert says. But it was great to to sort of imagine if we couldn't, or I guess it wasn't great. It was like very harrowing and sad to imagine that we couldn't escape, but it was a lot of fun watching them construct that bathroom from scratch, because we rehearsed a little bit before we filmed when we all got there, and so we got to sort of see the bathroom progress. And I don't know about you, I love the bathroom in the house. Like, I wanted that would be my dream bathroom. It's so like mid-century, and I love the pink tile and everything. In fact, when everyone was like demolishing the bathroom, I was like, man, like, I'm kind of sad. Like, I wish this was my bathroom. Like, it's pretty sick.
Absolutely, Sarah McCormick. You're missing that vintage bathroom.
Yes.
And how was it to perform and act in this closed environment that is always the same, following those weeks and months of filming?
Well, it was actually, it was a unique experience because I hadn't filmed on a soundstage like that in a very long time. And when I did work on a soundstage like that, it was like a very different kind of work. So to shoot like a very dark feature film that way was very unique and very interesting. And the sort of what you said, the monotony, the unchanging environment of this bathroom inside of the soundstage actually kind of helped the performance, I think, because it kind of mimicked like what was going on with the family in the movie, is that they're kind of stuck in this unchanging environment that they eventually get sick of. And that's kind of what filming for a long time in one location on a soundstage is like. You're kind of your setting, your environment is unchanging, and you just kind of get used to this sort of, I don't know, like monotony of your surroundings. And I think that's what made it so bleak, but I think that's why all of the performances in this movie were so solid and everyone was able to like really dial in, is because we were living a similar version of the circumstances, not exactly, obviously. We had it a lot better than the family does in the bathroom, but we were living through a similar circumstance in the fact that we felt a little trapped. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go do anything. The surrounding area didn't really lend itself. It was like a business complex, so we couldn't really go walk around and look at anything. There wasn't really much to look at, so it almost mirrored the family's predicament in a way that we were stuck on this soundstage. We were looking at the same four walls all day, and then when we went home after work, we were still looking at the same four hotel walls every day. So it kind of, I think, probably informed some of the performances, because we got to sort of experience a small taste of what the family was experiencing, being stuck in the same four walls in the bathroom with a huge world emergency happening outside, which is kind of what being stuck in the hotel room while COVID was happening was like. And I think, the writer and the director, in that was their intention. It was supposed to be kind of a metaphor, allegory, whatever, for COVID time. And I think that kind of made it so that, because we were sort of in the thick of COVID time, we were all able to sort of imagine the circumstances a little better. I think it made it a little easier on us. But yeah, it was unique having the environment being so controlled as well, because all of the effects and all of the insane sort of blood and gore effects that were used, they had like all this control over the environment and how to use them and stuff, which was new, because I had filmed a lot of stuff with, effects and stuff on location. So there's always something that goes a little wrong because, you're outside, you can't control the environment very well. But this was kind of fascinating to watch, because they were able to really construct the entire bathroom with the movie in mind, which is incredible. So they were able to really, and the production designer, she did such an incredible job, and so did the effects team. Like, that's one of the most talented, like, just group, like, entire crews of people I've ever worked with, because everyone was just at the top of their game, and I think that's why the movie looks so great.
Everyone on the set was at the top of their game, Sarah McCormick. And this feature film called We Need to Do Something is also raising awareness about the Cotard's syndrome, which is a disease that was discovered by the French neurologist and psychiatrist Jules Cotard. Can you tell us a little bit more about this thing that affects Amy and Melissa?
Yeah, that's so funny. I actually, thank you for bringing that up because I forgot that that's sort of what Amy's deal is, or that's kind of what she cites as her problem is a Cotard delusion, which is, I believe, where you, refreshing my memory here because we filmed that in 2020, so thinking back a couple of years, I'm pretty sure Cotard delusion is where you think that you're dead. You walk around and you believe very, very truthfully that you're a dead body or you're a corpse and you're walking around. I felt I hadn't really known what that was until I read the script, and then I looked it up, and it's very fascinating. It's very sad because, you know, living with that delusion is a very depressing probably existence, thinking that you're a dead body. But I don't think Melissa was supposed to suffer from that. I think it's just Amy, but because Melissa is a very supportive girlfriend, she supports and believes Amy when she says that she thinks that she's dead. And I think that's something that like initially draws Melissa to Amy as well, is the fact that Melissa's going through, this time in her life where it's things are just a bit darker. I don't know. I remember adolescence feeling very much like you were dying sometimes. And to encounter this person who sees you and isn't afraid of you, but who believes that they're dead. I think there's this kind of macabre draw between the two of them that I enjoyed when I read the script, and I enjoyed acting when we shot it. I forgot about Cotard delusion. Thanks for reminding me about that, because maybe I'll do a little more research about that just for funsies, because it was very fascinating when I looked it up. I mean, like I said, it's kind of sad, but it was definitely very, very interesting.
Furthermore, Sarah McCormick, I have a personal theory that the character of Robert, who is the father, may have this syndrome, and that the solution that he has is to drink mouthwash liquid from the brand Fast Fresh.
No, that's so interesting. I hadn't actually thought about that theory, but I'll have to tell the filmmakers, because that's very interesting that Robert has Cotard delusion, and that's why he has to drink, and that kind of informs some of his crazy personality changes and qualities in the movie. That's very interesting. I'd never really entertained that theory, but I'll have to tell the filmmakers too, because I think they'd appreciate that interpretation. Because that's really interesting that he has to drink. You know, he's an alcoholic, so you know when you don't have any more liquor in the bathroom, he resorts to alcohol wipes and mouthwash, which is crazy. But that being sort of the reason, and you know, as I was saying before, the parent that you are most similar to sometimes is the one you have the most contention with, is that might be interesting as to why Amy and Melissa are drawn to each other, that Melissa kind of has experienced either maybe unknowingly another person that has that delusion, but Amy, before her, you know, seeing Amy kind of go about it very differently might be refreshing and interesting to her. So I hadn't really entertained that, but that's a very like cool theory. I'll have to tell the writer director, because I think that they would get a kick out of that too.
In the ending credits, there is a music playing called Putting on the Ritz Taco, saying, if you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? And I truly believe that, in definitive, fashions sits with Faye Crooker at the telephone switchboard.
Yes, it does. Her style, Faye, in Vast of Night, her outfit, she's got She knows where fashion sits. she's got some drip. Her cool glasses and her. I love the outfit that the costume designer Jamie and we all collaborated on it, but Jamie found all of it that Faye wears. It's so perfect for her. And at the time when they showed me all the skirts and little shirts and like little cute little glasses and little bow and stuff. I actually had that skirt. I already had the skirt at home. I had bought it myself, like a year prior. Excuse me. And, when they brought it out, I was like, oh, I feel like there's some sort of, destiny thing happening here where I've got to wear this one on screen because I already have it. There's like a part of me that is already here, you know? And yeah, I think for the character, and I think like making me look as like mousy and kind of like kid-like as possible, I think that the outfit really, really did that, but still being like charming and period accurate to an extent, you know? But yeah, so much love for Faye and her fashion.
Absolutely, Sierra McCormick, the fashion of that character named Faye Crooker was always on point. And this is actually one of your other projects called The Vast of Night, in which this character, alongside another DJ, is going into a journey to uncover the source and the meaning of a mysterious signal.
Yeah, I mean, that's like their whole night-long odyssey is trying to find the origin of this crazy sound that comes through her switchboard. And I have so much love and warmth in my heart and my memory for that whole movie and that whole experience. And the other DJ you're talking about, Jake, just him as like a scene partner, and the director Andrew, like that was like one of the most inspiring and like creatively exhilarating just experiences of my life, honestly. And just getting to settle in, because Andrew gave us a lot of time to rehearse before we filmed anything when we shot that. And so just getting to settle into Faye as a character, because I think she's very different from me. I actually based her mostly on my sister. So getting to sort of settle into her vibe and her dynamic with Everett, the other DJ, and getting to sort of solidify that sort of bond and that sort of back and forth dynamic, and then sort of take that really fun relationship that they have and plug it into this crazy scenario over the course of a night, was just really such a treat. And I love doing period pieces, particularly because doing research is like my favorite part of the job when I'm acting, and I'm just someone who you're right, it's so much fun. You should know, you do your research, so you should agree research is the funnest part, right? Like it's such a, I don't know, I love collecting information. My little brain just loves like just hanging on to these little crumbs of knowledge, I guess. But yeah, doing the research for that was so much fun, and learning a new skill is one of my favorite things to do for a performance, especially if it's something that someone does, you know, every day. And so I have to really naturalize it and make it seem like it's second nature to me. That was very difficult and very challenging, but it's like one of my favorite parts of any performance when it kind of lends itself to that, when I'm able to learn something new like that. And so to operate the switchboard, they wheeled a real switchboard into my hotel room, and so I would just sit there every single night after rehearsal and after like filming. I would just sit there and like plug in the little cords and unplug them and plug them in again and unplug them, because they gave me, there's like a wealth of resources on the internet to like watch how the switchboard operators did it back in the day. And I noticed that the ones that were very seasoned, they had this very casual mannerism that they used to sort of plug and unplug the cords. And I was really determined to sort of to capture that, to get that sort of casual familiarity with the machine and this sort of second nature quality to the way that they I don't know, it was like this very specific like flick of the wrist kind of thing that they would use to plug and unplug them. And so getting that down and like challenging myself to really learn how to do that was really, really fun, and an experience that I won't ever forget. It was so wonderful.
You won't ever forget
Correct.
Sarah McCormick. And in order to uncover that signal, it would be a great idea to go on top of the Mount San Jacinto that is located near Palm Spring, the city where everything started, a place 106.2 miles away from your current location.
Yeah. No, you're correct. Love the mountain and the tram you were talking about, going up the mountain. I'm a big fan. That was so fun when I was a kid. We'd go up the tram because in the desert, you know, it's so hot and it's so dry and it's so flat. We're not flat. There's a lot of mountains, but it's this giant hot expanse essentially. And so at Christmas time, it would get kind of, I appreciate like a California Christmas now, but when I was a kid, I definitely wanted to see some snow or something. And so we'd take the tram up the mountain, and it was crazy just how quickly you could see snow from Palm Springs. You could be in Palm Springs in the morning, take the tram up, and you'd be seeing snow by afternoon. It was crazy, but I have a lot of fond memories taking up the tram when we were kids, and going up there to see some snow and some big trees, some big tall trees. Loved that.
It was very fun taking that tramway, Sarah McCormick. And can you tell us a little bit more about those beginnings, being smarter than a fifth grader?
I don't know if I'm smarter than a fifth grader at this point. I'd love to test my knowledge once again and see, because at one point I was the fifth grader that you had to be smarter than, but at this point, I used to, when I was a kid and I was on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, I would like look at the adults that would come on the show and I'd be like, how do you not know who the third president is? Wow, like these grown-ups are silly. But now, as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, if someone asked me to do long division right now, I might like throw up. If someone asked me like an elementary level math question right now, I might cry. So all the snarky thoughts I thought about the adults at the time, I am sorry, because I am now one of those adults. But yeah, growing up in Palm Springs was looking back, I had a lot of fun. I have a lot of affinity for the desert, and it was great. But, you know, to an extent also, I kind of had a hard time when I was a kid. I was in trouble a lot at school. I had a hard time making friends. I felt very lonely. And so because I kind of had a hard time at school, they sort of suggested that maybe I try doing the drama club at school to sort of get some of that energy out and see if it kind of helped me make friends and sort of express and have an outlet for all of my sort of outgoing energy. And the woman who was my drama teacher, her name was Jane Fessier, and she was a big champion of mine, and I always appreciated that. I'll never forget it. And she sort of told my mom, like, hey, like, she seems to really enjoy this, and she's pretty good at it, so if you wanted to go up to LA and try it out, like, professionally or whatever, here's what you could do. And I had to beg and beg and beg my mom. I had to beg and plead and be like, please, please, please. And so she was kind of like, well, it's like a 3-hour drive from Palm Springs to LA, so it's a whole day's trip, essentially. So she was kind of like, well, we can try it out this one time or whatever, you can audition for this thing, and then if you don't get it, then you gotta wait, you know, until you're older. And so I was like, okay. And so I auditioned for it, and I don't even remember what it was, because it wasn't something that ever got shown. It was like a kids like talk show pilot to like be one of the kids on this sort of pilot talk show for kids. I don't know. It was a very long time ago. But either way, I booked it, or they picked me to be one of the kids. And so I was like, well, Mom, like, you got to make good on your promise. Like, you said that if I book the job, then you got to let me do it. And so she did. And after that, I started auditioning a little bit, and I booked a role on Till Death, which was this sitcom, this network sitcom back in the day. And I had a really small part on that. And then after that, I auditioned for Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And that's a huge, exhaustive, nationwide casting search. So you have to go in probably 20 different times to be chosen as like one of the final like 5 kids. So it took many months of auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, and they would narrow it down until finally the last like 3 days they take all the kids, the last like 25 kids or so, and they put them at a hotel in LA, and then they spend just the next 3 days doing this like all day like mix and match improv, like asking you like school questions and asking you to like, you know, do all this like improv and like interact with the other kids and like do these little skits and all these sort of little tests to sort of see if you had what it takes, I guess, to be on the show. And eventually after that, they finally narrowed it down to like 5 kids. And I still remember the moment they told me, because they were filming me, and they came out and they had the camera and they were like, okay. And I was like, this is either really good or really bad, because if they have the camera and they're filming me, they want to see my reaction to something. So I was like, oh boy, okay. And so then they finally told me, and that I was chosen to be one of the kids, and I was over the moon. I was so ecstatic. I remember jumping up and down and being like, oh my God, this is the best. Like, it was so sick. And when you were chosen to be one of the kids, they'd drive you around in this limo, and they'd take you to this press junket at the Intercontinental Hotel down in like Century City. And it was so much fun. It was so glamorous. And then the whole summer, and by the way, like those kids, usually most of them are not actually technically in 5th grade. They do it like the summer between 4th and 5th grade. So I wasn't technically in 5th grade yet. I had just graduated from 4th grade. So every time an adult would get close to like the 5th grade questions, or they'd make it to the 5th grade questions, I'd be kind of scared, because I was like, oh boy, like this is going to be kind of hard. Like, I'm not in 5th grade yet, so the 5th grade question, you know, is kind of a wild card. I don't know what it's going to be, but yeah, it was a very, very, very fun experience. And after that, my mom was very gracious and kind of assessed that I really was trying to take this seriously. I was very serious about it. I still am, obviously, but when I was a kid, I was very, very serious about it. And she made the choice to have us move to LA so that I could do it more full time. And so she didn't have to drive 3 hours there and 3 hours back every single time I had an audition or a callback or something. So I'm very grateful for that. And it worked out somewhat well for me, I think.
I am looking forward to see all of those upcoming projects in which you will be transmuting raw script into reality now that you made that 106.2 one-way trip from your hometown. Thank you, Sierra McCormick.
Oh, thank you, Victor. This was so fun. You had such great questions. I appreciate it.